Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Jeremy to the pulpit.
Today we're marking the end of 2020. Which I like to call it 2020 vision. Because, whether you realize it or not, we see more now about what's going on in this country than we had ever seen before. And sometimes, in order to correct your vision, it comes with discomfort, pain, and suffering in order for it to be corrected. So if you think about it from the other side, this has been a great year based upon that circumstance. There was some things we needed to see that is being revealed. But keep in mind that as things are beginning to surface and be revealed at the White House, things are beginning to be surfaced and revealed in God's house. And along with things being revealed in God's house, that means things are going to become revealed in your house. I'm going to be coming out of Mark, starting in the 8th chapter, starting with verse 22. The title of today's message is Only Half Blind. Only half blind. Verse 22. Then he came to Bethsaida, and they brought a blind man to him. Now, I don't know who they is, but thank God for the theys. And they brought a blind man to him and begged him to touch him. So he took the blind man by the hand and led him out of the town. And when he had spit in his eyes and put his hands on him, he asked him if he saw anything. What do you see? And he looked up and he said, I see men like trees walking. Then he put his hands on his eyes again and made him look up, and he was restored and saw everyone clearly. Then he sent him away to his house, saying, neither go into town nor tell anyone in the town what has happened. They brought this blind man to Jesus to heal him. And a lot of people believe that Jesus touched this man twice. But the truth is, he didn't touch him twice. He touched him 3 times. Because he opens up by saying, and Jesus took him by the hand. And that's when the man received his first touch by Jesus. See, he took him by the hand, and you know what? Nothing, absolutely nothing about his blindness changed. So let me ask you a question. What is it when you know that he has touched you and nothing, I mean nothing about your condition changed? I came to you because I was blind. And you've been touching everybody else that I've been seeing, all these other people I've been hearing about you touching them. So I was also expecting that when you touched me, that my circumstance would also change when I made contact with you. And my condition didn't change. But nonetheless, he took him by the hand. Why? So he could lead him out of the town. Now, this is where I believe most people just don't understand. Because so often, when we first meet Jesus, when we get our first touch from Jesus, we don't understand that first touch. We want to skip right past it. See, we actually want the miracle of sight. We want to see. We want the blessing to be able to see because I'm blind. But we leave out the leading out part. We want to see, but not be led. We want to see, but we do not want to be directed. The first touch was not to heal him. It was to bring him out of the environment of doubt. It was to bring him out of the environment of fear. It was designed to bring him out of the familiar. The familiar, which is an environment of destruction, if you think about it. Listen, it's not just about having good seed. It's about finding good ground. Because if you've got good seeds, but you're in bad ground, what difference does it make? See, you still think you're going to change your environment. But the reality is, it's the environment that's holding you captive. You're trying to change the prison cell that holds you. Trust me, leading you out is a process. It can take years upon years, or in my case, decades, to be let out. Because it's a process and it is hard and it goes against everything that you know. It takes and tries to walk you out of the environment that you have always been familiar with. The real challenge is can you feel your way through it? Can you go through a period that you're still going to be faithful even though absolutely nothing has changed in your life? Will you trust me in the shadows? Will you still be with me when you have to just go by what you feel because you cannot see a dead gum thing? Will you be here? Now you'll notice that it does not say that the blind man took Jesus by the hand. It doesn't say that. It says Jesus took the blind man by the hand. See, it's not that I got a hold of God, because my grip, it may slip. But God has got a hold of me. Amen. The first touch calls you out. Calls you out of the environment. It calls you out of the influences in your life. The first touch calls you away from the naysayers. It calls you out of the doubters. It calls you out from the people who have defined you by how they met you. The very people that call you the blind man without saying it. And that's what the first touch is for. But for whatever reason, even though that first touch reveals to you your new course, knowing you have a new road to travel when you receive that first touch. But so often, people pull their hand away at the first sign of ridicule. Oh, but if you would just stay this course, when God gets finished with you, He is going to be the one to define you. I'm going to start you over. I'm going to set you free with the first touch, if you'll let me. So, He pulls him out away from everyone. But remember, he's still blind. We have a world that God keeps pulling us out of. But they're still blind. Pulling us out of all types of tragedies. But we're still blind. Pulling us out of all kinds of crisis. But we're still blind. And yet, we just don't want to be led out for whatever reason. But in this gentleman's case, he allowed Jesus to lead him out, therefore leading to the second touch. And when he touched him this second time, he asks him, he says, "What do you see?" Now listen to me very closely. Listen. Every touch comes with a test. You cannot enjoy the touch if you are not willing to take the test. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it till you get it. Every touch comes with a test. You can't receive this word and not be tested. I didn't say hear it. There's all kinds of people that's going to hear this word and you won't remember anything by the time you get to the parking lot. I'm not talking to you. I'm talking about the ones that receive it, that don't go eat lunch and talk about food and dogs. I'm talking about the people that receive this. And this is what you talk about. You can't receive this kind of word and not be tested. If you receive this, you're going to be tested. You can't sit up under this kind of ministry and not go through anything. You're going to go through something. So anyway, he says to the man, he's like, hey, what do you see? What do you see? And he goes, I see men walking around like trees. Which brings me to stage 2. The half-blind stage of the second touch. The half-blind stage of the second touch. Now, this is where I believe many people are also. Those actual few that allowed him to lead them out. So the Lord touched them again. And now they can see? Kinda. Not really. Are you guys even understanding what I'm talking about? Y'all just going to keep sitting there all straight-necked like you don't know, acting all confused so that nobody really knows what's going on inside of you? Is that what you're going to do? And yet you're still running around judging everybody else with your half-blind self? I mean, you shouldn't be talking to anybody while you're half-blind. You're just one step away from being blind yourself. You ain't clear on everything either. Everything you see is out of focus. Stop making statements like you know what you're talking about while you're still half-blind. Whew, this was worth you getting out of the bed and going through everything you went through today to get here to hear that right there. That one statement was worth everything for you to get here to hear. Because I have seen people kill their future by the decisions they made while still half blind. You would be surprised at what you cannot see, even after you've been touched. Listen, if I had to shoot a pop can off the top of your head from 100 yards with a deer rifle, .223, with a big scope and a sniper muzzle, you wouldn't want me to shoot while still being half blind, would you? Do you realize that every time that you make a decision while in the half-blind stage, you're shooting a pop can with spit in your eyes? You got divorced while you were still half-blind. You got married while half-blind. God help me. Left home? Moved away, walked away from jobs because you were still half blind and couldn't see. Preachers are preaching half blind, telling people stuff and things they can't see halfway themselves. The Bible says, now we see through a glass darkly, then face to face. When you're half blind, you really need to just stand right where you are. You've got to stand right where you are because you're still half blind. I have learned the dangers and the repercussions of making decisions while I was still half blind. All of those years of struggle, begging and crying, mutilating myself, pleading for the Lord to reveal Himself to me, to just touch me and show me something other than what all of this formality is I've lived my whole life. Oh, I'd get angry at Him because I was so miserable, and He wouldn't reveal Himself to me like He did others. So I tried harder, and the harder I tried, the darker I became. All the struggle. And finally, when He did touch me, I spent years in worse struggle trying to figure out how to be let out. You know what I like about this guy? Is at least he was being honest. He didn't try to act like he could see more than what he could really see, like I did, and so many others. Didn't try to act like he knew more than he really knew. I mean, most of what you know, you read out of a book anyway, or somebody told you or taught it to you. You think the way you think because of the environment that you came up in. Can you imagine for just a minute how many people we have killed off in the body of Christ because we were half blind? Killed off the prophets and thought we did God's service because we were a half blind church. In a half blind stage, shooting at people when we couldn't even see straight. Killing opportunities, killing our families, killing our children, our men, killing our women of God, killing our husbands, killing our wives because we were half blind. I mean, ladies, who are you to be pastoring your husband anyway? You need to be quiet and get back in your place and be his wife. Because you're still half blind. Don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. Walking around quoting scriptures all the while your emotions are dictating your husband's decisions on directions because you're still half blind. I told you, I mean, you want to see, don't you? But are you going to pay the price to see? Are you going to go eat lunch and talk about your dogs and food? And husbands? Oh. Husbands? Seeing transparency as weakness and end up manipulating and controlling your wife with the precious, private, vulnerable information that she gave you because you're still half blind. You know, if this guy would have just lied like we do about how well he could see, he would have never been made whole. I had to be honest with my wife about everything. I actually, in a way, I explained this to my brother one day when I was trying to tell him something. I said, I used my wife to trap myself. I gave myself a death sentence with my family, with my wife and children, because I hid nothing. And they all can live up to the level of accountability better than me, but yet I'm the one that has to lead. So I gave myself a death sentence. I used them to help me hold the course. Those little hidden things that you don't think about at home, the little misleading reactions you have with her. I'm just talking to the guys. Now, ladies, just, listen too. Those little reactions you use to cover up little stupid, minute things that don't really matter. I mean, I remember loading the dishwasher one time. I looked over a little later, and there's somebody put 2 more glasses over there that needed to be kind of rinsed and put in the dishwasher. Well, I didn't want to do it, so I didn't. Christy comes in and says, "Why didn't you load these dishes in the dishwasher?" My first reaction is, I didn't know they were there. Why? Why would I have said that? Listen to me. Why would I have said that? It's because it's easier to say that than to tell her the truth, which is going to cause a little bit of a moment. If I'd have said, well, I knew they were there, I just didn't want to do it because then it opens her up to, want to be upset with me for being lazy or whatever. So the easiest way to shut it down is to just say, well, somebody must have stuck them there, I didn't see them. So that it just sweeps it over. She didn't know what the truth was, but I did. See, these are the little things that the Lord needs you to acknowledge, is the honesty. It's honesty about who and what you really are, instead of playing the games. See, the Lord actually appreciates you being willing to be honest and pay the price for it than to cover it up with being misleading. If your wife can't trust you with that, how is God going to trust you? I mean, People want to talk about their relationship with the Lord, but He doesn't really have much of one with you because He doesn't trust you. Listen. Don't sit there and try to convince me that God is this relational person with you on any level that you pretend that He has. Just because He's God and He died for you and He loves you. If you don't trust your husband or your wife, are you going to continue on in an intimate relationship with somebody you don't trust? Hello? Are you? Why? Because you don't trust them. You're not going to give yourself to somebody you can't trust. Why is He going to give Himself to you if you can't trust you? So don't act like He is. You're still half blind. You're a faker and you're a poser. Sorry. I just care. I sometimes wonder if this healing this man had was as much to do with faith, or was it something to do with his honesty? I really do. I wonder that. Did you hear what I said? Honesty. I mean, it took courage to say, I'm better than I was, but I still don't believe I'm seeing correctly. Everything is still blurry. It takes courage to say that. We don't say that. We get touched and we try to convince everybody of what we see. You know, the devil doesn't want you to be honest. He wants you to be impressive. He wants you to walk around with your chest stuck out, guarding your reputation, making people think that you're more than what you really are. That's what the devil wants. But the Bible says that if you'd humble yourself, God, not people, God will exalt you. Otherwise, it's just you exalting yourself. You know, if you just come down off your high horse, God will raise you up. If you admit, I can't see as good as I'd like, God said, I'll give you another touch. But I'm only going to give it to an honest man. Being honest is extremely difficult, especially when you're not conditioned to be that honest. It's difficult to be honest when you're still half blind. God said that He'd give you another touch, but He's only going to give it to an honest man.